Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of On My Last Brain Cell, hosted by me, your boy Adam. I know it's been a minute since I've been on this podcast. As you guys know, my job has become endless. I've been working 6 days a week, and then I ended up getting COVID and strep, and I was fucking dying. But I'm fine now. I'm fine like 100%. Well, I wouldn't say 100%. I'm like maybe like 80, 90. Probably lower than that, I don't know. But yeah, sorry that it took me so long to make another episode, but I couldn't find the time, and then when I had the time I was sick, so it fucking sucked. But I would update you guys on everything, but I just want to jump into this video because this is one that a lot of people were wanting me to do. Even when I was doing the podcast with Ashley, like our first one, when we used to be The Harsh Truth, everybody knows that I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and you know, I left the religion a while back, like back in 2019 was when I had a fit, when I officially left. And a lot of people were wanting us to talk about it, even on Your Favorite Goth Kids, the one I have with Ashley. People were asking us questions about that because they both know that we grew up in the same religion. That's how me and her met. But there's a lot of things that she didn't want to talk about, and I know that it's an episode that I have been wanting to make, but it is an episode that I was scared to make, mostly because of the things that I am going to say, and because, well, not so much the things I'm going to say, but the thing with this whole religion is that if you say something, if you have like an opinion that is outside of what everybody else believes in, you're automatically deemed like an apostate. You're automatically deemed, you know, the Antichrist, or just a really bad person. And for those of you that don't know, what an apostate is just that it's somebody that they leave the religion and they have so much visceral hatred and resentment towards it that they start to, you know, spread misinformation and lies about it, and sometimes it could be extremely dangerous towards another JW, to where they have caused other JWs to leave the religion, and then they become the exact same way. So I understand why, you know, they say to not associate with an apostate, because sometimes they can, you know, it can damage your relationship or the faith that you have with Jehovah, or just like the faith that you have in the relationship, in the religion. So I completely understand that, but I do want to, before I jump into this episode, I do want to preface this by saying that none of my resentment goes towards Jehovah, or none of it goes towards the religion as a whole. In my opinion, to a certain degree, I don't have any resentment towards the religion. I don't see anything wrong with it. There are some things that I don't agree with, which I'll probably talk about, but it's those certain things that it's not enough to make me hate not only Jehovah but the religion. A lot of my resentment goes towards my parents and the way that they raised us with it, the way that it was very forced upon us, the way that I was never allowed to have my own voice or my own opinion when it came to certain things, when it came to the religion. So that's where a lot of my resentment comes from, is towards my parents, which it does suck to say that I have so much resentment towards them, but it's just the way it is, and it's the way that they raised us within the religion, and just the things, just how, in my opinion, they took it to such an extreme form, and that's what ultimately made me leave, because I just felt so, I guess you could say, like, unsafe, or just like almost unwanted. But we'll get into it. But I did want to preface this all by saying that, like, yeah, like like I'm not an apostate. I don't have any resentment towards Jehovah or the religion. A lot of it goes towards my parents, for the way that, specifically my dad, for the way that he was, you know, towards it. And I'm gonna get lost in my words a lot because it's so much. So if everything comes out very choppy, or if I'm like, it takes me a minute to say something, is because it's a lot. So, because I don't even know where to start. So, I guess we could just start from like the beginning. Is that I grew up in this religion. This is the only thing I knew. It all started when my mom, growing up, she was always in search for God, and she always had like those big questions like, why are we here? Why is there so much suffering? You know, all like those typical questions when somebody is looking for God. She ended up, the Jehovah's Witnesses that came to her door, and she liked it and all that. And then my dad came into it, and then once my mom had my brother before me, like the middle brother, and then me, they were already in the religion. When my mom was pregnant, she was baptized. When she was pregnant with me, she was baptized. So I was born into the religion. I didn't know anything else other than just that. Growing up, when I was younger, I was zealous about it to a certain degree. Like, I did enjoy going to like the meetings. I did enjoy commenting. I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I grew so much resentment towards it because of the way that my parents were with it. See, I'm like getting lost in my words because I'm like, I just remember growing up a lot and just being forced to do a lot of things that I didn't want to do. There were times where if I didn't want to comment in the meeting, because you guys know, like, there are all those times where like you just don't feel like talking, you don't feel like doing anything, you know. And there was those moments where I didn't want to comment in the meeting. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And in my parents' eyes, specifically my dad, that was like the worst thing that I could have ever done. Like, there was days, like those days where I didn't want to comment in the meeting. My dad would get upset and he would be like, oh, well, since you don't have the energy to comment, then you don't have the energy to go out, you don't have the energy to do anything. Like, we would almost get grounded for just feeling almost like basic human emotions, which I thought was bullshit. Because it's like, when it came to the religion, we always had to be at our best. We always had to put in like 100%. There could never be like, oh, because I'm going through it mentally, or just because I'm having one of those days where I just don't want to do anything. That was always a no in my dad's eyes. I grew up with very old school Mexican parents, so for those of you guys that know, you know that they don't really believe in mental health. They don't really believe in depression, or that, you know, you could have those off days. You always have to be 100% every single day. And specifically when it came to this religion, that's how my dad was at all times. Like, I just remember my dad always being angry because of that. Like, if we didn't want to comment, if we didn't wake up to go preaching, if we ended up missing the meeting, like, that was the one thing that would piss him off so viscerally, was if we missed the meeting. Even if we were sick, like, he would invalidate us so much. Like, we could literally be like sick as shit, like the way that you guys saw me when I had COVID. We could be that sick, and my mom would be like, oh, they're gonna stay home because, you know, like, they're dying. And my dad would not even look at us, and then he would be like, well, he looks fine to me. They look fine. All they have to do is sit there. And if we missed the meeting, he would be so incredibly upset. And when he would come home and, you know, he would see us awake, you know, if we were using the bathroom, he would yell at us. And he would be like, what are you doing up? Like, you're supposed to be asleep. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I had to go fucking vomit, you know? Like, or it was coming out of the other end. Like, I'm not going to be asleep this entire time. And he would get so pissed off. And it wasn't... And I never understood it. Like, he was just so upset because we ended up missing the meeting. And it was like, dude, like, I'm so fucking sick right now. Like, what did you expect? Or there was days too where I just didn't want to go. And like I'm saying, like, that was always a big no in my dad's eyes. Like I said, we always had to be 100%. We always had to be ready to go to the meeting. And even in those, like I said, I'm getting lost in my words because it's so much. Because this is one thing that I always found very hard to heal from, because of the way that I was treated just so horribly growing up when it came to this religion. And I know it sounds dramatic, but it became even worse when I was outed, you know, when they found out that I was gay. It became so much fucking worse once that came into play. I just, like, when I was outed, I clearly remember my dad, you know, trigger warning for anybody, my dad just pretty much told me that like he pretty much just compared me to like a child molester. He told me that me being gay was the equivalent of me molesting a 5-year-old, and I was like, okay, that's great to hear. And he also told me that like, oh, if it wasn't for this religion that saved me, you know, and I found out that you were gay, I would have beat your ass and I would have like kicked you out of the house. And it was just like, fuck, dude, like like it was really bad growing up in the house at times. Yeah, see, I'm getting lost in my words because it's a lot, you guys. It's always been really hard for me to heal from, because it took up until this year for my parents to actually be nice to me and to not tell me all the fucked up shit that they were constantly telling me on a daily basis. Like, my parents constantly made me feel like I was never enough when it came to the religion. And even when my dad always wanted more. He always wanted more. Like, we could always put in more effort. We could always do more. We could always give more to not only the religion but to Jehovah. And even when I would, like, it still wasn't enough. Like, he would tell us straight up that it was not enough, that we were never doing enough. Like, that's clear. That's one thing that I always remember, is just always feeling like I was never enough, and that no matter how much I did, I would never achieve, I guess you could say, that level of spirituality or like ascensionism, or it was like that typical religious superiority complex of like, I'm the most spiritual and I'm Jehovah's favorite and yada yada yada, and I would never amount to that because I don't put in the effort and I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's where a lot of my trauma came from, of me constantly seeking not only my parents' love but my parents' approval. Like, I used to kiss their ass and do everything I could to be the perfect son and to be this perfect Christian too, and it was never enough, you know, because, like, not to put like my entire family business out there, but both of my siblings growing up, all three of them actually, like, they left their religion and they got into really bad shit outside when they moved out. So I felt a lot of that pressure on me, of me being, before my little sister came, of me being almost like the last one, and we're like, just so much pressure on me of having to be what my parents wanted me to be, and then having to come out the complete opposite of what my siblings became. And I feel so much of that pressure. And I remember my dad would constantly ask me like why I wouldn't get baptized, and I knew from a young age that this, from seeing just how forced this was on me and how I was never enough, that I knew that this wasn't something I was going to continue in. But that was something I couldn't tell my dad, because my dad's favorite thing to say, if he knew that we weren't going to continue in the religion, was that he told us that we had to find a new place to stay. He told all of us that, and at a very young age. I remember my little sister was, I think she was like 14 or 15, and my dad was telling her that already, that, you know, she would need to find a new place to stay. And that's a concept that I guess you can say that I could never begin to conceptualize that how the way that a religious mindset can be okay with certain things, with wanting to kick out your daughter, you know, a woman in this day and age, at the age of 14, 15, just because she doesn't want to participate in the religion. You are more than beyond comfortable sending her out of the house and into the world simply because she does not want to be a part of the religion. And he did that to all of us, and I never understood that, like, how he was so okay, like what, like, it makes me wonder, like, what if my little sister would have actually left, you know, at such a young age, like, to know that your parents are choosing the religion over you, and that you would have to fight for your life and struggle out here in the world at such a young age because of that. No one at that young age should have to worry about what they're gonna eat, or where they're gonna lay their head, or how they're gonna get to school, or even have to question their parents' love or doubt their parents' love because of a religion. And I remember a couple years back, or maybe even longer, that's when Russia they were banning everything about the Jehovah's Witnesses because they saw it as an extremist religion, which this may come off a little apostate, if that's even a word, but I could see it from that angle. Like, the fact that you're so willing to kick out your kid because of that is kind of like an extremist behavior. And I remember the Jehovah's Witnesses made it to the Guinness World Record for the most letters that they wrote to Russia, just trying to like prove to them that it wasn't an extremist religion. But then it's like, here you are trying to prove that it's not, but yet you're so comfortable doing this. And not only that, I remember, like, if we missed a meeting or if we didn't go out preaching, we weren't allowed. My parents would sometimes go out to eat to a restaurant, or they would get food, from wherever. And if we didn't go to the meeting or we missed service, we weren't allowed to eat. That was our punishment, was that we weren't allowed to eat. My dad wouldn't get us food because we weren't allowed to eat because we missed the meeting or because we didn't go out on service. And again, that's like another extremist behavior where it's like you're depriving your kids of one of life's basic necessities simply because they missed a meeting, simply because they didn't want to go out on service. And it's like, okay, you wanted to do that, then you don't deserve to eat. And sometimes, like, when they would go out on service on Saturdays, they wouldn't come back home until like 1 or 2. And if my mom didn't feel like cooking, we would have to either make something or we would have to wait for her to cook. So we wouldn't eat until like maybe like in the afternoon. Like we would eventually eat, but they would drag out that punishment. And even if I went up to my mom and I was like, oh, I'm hungry, she would just straight up be like, well, then you should have went out on service and you would have came to eat with us. I'm not cooking because none of us are hungry because we ate, because we actually went out on service. And it's just like again, the way that a religious mind can justify certain actions and certain behaviors. And it's a disciplinary that I never understood. I just never understood it. And then, going back to the whole, like, me never feeling good enough. I remember, and sorry that I'm jumping all over the place, but like I said, like, whenever I talk about this, my mind goes everywhere, because it was hell at times having to grow up in that household. And I remember all the time just being like, I was so depressed and I was so suicidal, especially when I was outed for being gay, and having my dad tell me the things that he was telling me. I had to, and then, like, my parents, like, forcing heteronormativity on me was one of the hardest things I ever had to endure. My eyes are getting watery. I'm gonna fucking cry. Because I don't know, man, like, it was hard having to code switch, but like almost like permanently code switch in order for me just to get like an ounce of my parents' respect, or just to get like an ounce of their acceptance, or just to get like an ounce of their love, because I felt so unloved growing up, and I never felt good enough because of this religion, because they would tell me that constantly, that I was never doing enough, and that I would never be enough, and that I could give so much more. And I cared more about being with my friends, and I cared more than I did about being a part of the religion. And I was just constantly talked down to, and it was so hard growing up in that household, dude. That's why, like, whenever I got a chance to leave, like, I would move out of the house, because it was just becoming so much, and my parents just never wanted, they never cared. They never cared. And everything that I was feeling was always my fault, because I never prayed enough, and I didn't love Jehovah enough. And that's what they would tell me, was that the only reason why I was feeling everything that I was feeling was because I wasn't praying enough, and because I didn't read the Bible enough, and because I wasn't accepting Jehovah into my life, and I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do. And if I wasn't gay, I wouldn't be feeling the way that I was feeling. Not once did I ever take into accountability that, like, or into, not accountability, but into consideration that my dad was comparing me to a child molester. And my mom would constantly tell me how much she was disappointed in me for coming out gay, and that she even told me that she wouldn't be surprised if one of these days I got HIV because of the lifestyle that I was choosing to live. But at the end of the day, it was my fault because I chose to be who I was, and I was choosing something the complete opposite from what they wanted me to be. And I had such an identity crisis throughout those times. You know, I was young, dude. I was 12. I didn't know what I wanted in life, but my mom would always tell me, like, oh, at your age I already knew what I wanted, and I knew the type of life that I wanted, and I went to school for this and that. And she would always make me feel bad. And it's like, I don't know what I want, because if this isn't what I want, I'm gonna get kicked out. If this isn't what I want, you guys can't show me that basic love and basic respect towards your own son because of the religion. So yeah, of course, I was incredibly lost. I was incredibly depressed. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted, dude. Like, it sucked. And I remember this one time, there was this one guy. Well, it was like an older guy. I think he was like an elder of the meeting. We were at the meeting one day, and I had to go talk to my dad about something. I can't remember what. But that, excuse me, that elder told my dad in front of me. He was like, "Oh, like your son is doing really well, and you could tell that Jehovah's in him. Like, he's doing really, really well." And I didn't know how to receive that, because, you know, I was always told the complete opposite growing up. But it made me feel really good, because I was like, okay, you know, in somebody's eyes, I am doing the right thing. And I made the mistake of telling my mom what he said, and then my mom just completely shut it down. And she was like, the only reason why he's telling you that is because he doesn't see the things that you don't do. How the only time you ever, like, read anything is just to get prepared for the meeting, and that's it. Like, you never do anything else. You don't read a portion of the Bible. You don't read what they call like the atalayas, like the things that they hand you, or that they, because I haven't preached them like since 2019, so I don't know what they hand you now. But back then it was like this little, it was called like the watchtower, and there was like articles inside of it. So she would be like, you don't read like your watchtowers, you don't do anything else other than the day of the meeting. And I remember just like in the back of my head, I was like, dude, why did I even tell you? I was like, what was the purpose of me even telling you when I knew that you weren't going to support anything anybody else has to say? Because in your eyes, I'm a worthless piece of shit, you know? And I remember her saying that, and then she was like, you are doing good, but you could be doing so much better. And that's always what it was. I could always be doing better. I could always be putting in so much more effort, and it was hard. Even on those days where I would comment in the meeting, I would only comment once, and then we would be in the car on the way home, and my dad, you know, it was almost like the same thing, like a very backhanded compliment. I don't even consider it a compliment. It was just very backhanded. And my dad would be like, oh, you know, that was a really good comment, but you need to start commenting more. And I was like, well, I commented in the meeting, like, that's what you wanted. And he was like, well, it's not good enough. You need to have a comment ready for each section. And I was like, so then I started doing that. But even then, like, he wanted more. Like, there was times where, like, yeah, like I would have one comment for like one section. For like each section, I would have one comment, and I would raise my hand, and they wouldn't pick me. And even then, my dad would be like, you need to have multiple comments ready. And I'm like, like, it was always one thing after the other. I sound like a broken record, but it's just, I was never good enough in my parents' eyes when it came to this religion. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried to prove myself, and just no matter what I did, it was never good enough for them. And that's how I felt constantly growing up, that no matter what, like, I would never meet their standards when it came to this religion. And then as I got older, I didn't give a shit anymore, because I was like, no matter what I do, you are going to be so incredibly unsatisfied. No matter what I do, you're always going to say that I can do better. No matter what I do, you're always going to talk down on it and tell me that, yeah, you did that, but you could have done it better, but you could have done more, but you could have put more effort. And then with the whole baptizing thing, it was just, my dad would constantly ask me, and like, oh, I fucking hated it, dude. He would find a way to ask me every single time, and I'm like, I'm tired of having this conversation with you, dude. I'm not gonna get baptized. And I almost let it get to the point that I got baptized just to, this is gonna sound really harsh, but just to get them to shut the fuck up. But I knew for a fact that I was gonna be miserable. I knew for a fact that I wasn't gonna be happy. I knew I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I was gonna do it just to get my parents off my back. But then when I really thought about it, I was like, if I do get baptized, they're gonna continue to ask for more. They're gonna be like, oh, now since you are baptized, you are gonna have to do more. They wanted me to, not wanted me, but I know they would have like told, like, I don't know what word I want to use, but like, I guess almost like motivate me to go to like Bethel and work over there, and like, because once you get baptized, you are giving your entire life to Jehovah. And I knew that I couldn't slip up once. I knew that in that moment I would have to really force like heteronormativity, and I couldn't slip up just not once, dude. And I didn't want that life for me, you know. And yet it's like, sometimes I would think, I was like, what if I was the one that shut the fuck up and I did what I was supposed to? What if I did give my parents everything that they wanted? What if I did force I can't speak. What if I did force heteronormativity so much that I portrayed the straight man, and I got married to a woman, and I had kids, and I did everything that they wanted me to do? But then it was like, would they be able to see through that? Would everybody else be able to see through that? How long would I be able to keep living this lie? Or how long would I be able to keep up with it? And I didn't want that for myself. I was already incredibly depressed. I was already incredibly suicidal and incredibly lost, and it was such a hard time for me. And you know, growing up with parents that didn't believe in mental health, I suffered alone a lot, because I did have friends like in the religion, but none of them knew what I was going through, because they weren't gay. They weren't being talked down the way that I was. Like, they were all doing what they were supposed to do. I was the only one. It felt like I was the only one that was out here just like rebelling against it. And it's not that I didn't want to rebel against it, but it's just like, I just felt so forced. And I felt like I was having to perform and force myself to become somebody that I didn't want to become. But my parents did not give a shit. Specifically my dad, like, he did not care. Like, I remember the first time I had moved out, because in 2014 was when I started to kind of like dissociate myself from it. I had stopped preaching. I had stopped commenting. I wasn't really hanging around like the JWs anymore. I was more with like my other friends, or what they call like your worldly friends, you know, the ones that are a part of the world and aren't a part of the religion. And then in 2019, when I got into that relationship, I took the chance and I moved out, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I remember when I came back, because me and him had broken up, unfortunately I came back the day that they go to the meetings. And I remember like the minute that I came back, I had to change everything about myself. I had to take out my piercing, because I used to have the industrial in this ear. I had to dye my hair, I had to shave my beard, and my dad was telling me I had to wear a suit, and I was like, I'm not feeling comfortable yet. My dad was like, well, you want to live here, you have to do as I say. And that's how my dad always was that no matter how old we were, it's like the whole like typical Mexican mindset, you know, of having to live in a household. No matter how old you are, you have to listen. And specifically, like I keep saying, specifically when it came to the religion, my dad was very much like, it's my way or the highway. Like, my dad needed everything to go his way. It's like specifically when it came to this religion. And I didn't want to put on a fucking suit. I was already feeling like I was losing my identity from having to take out my piercing and dye my hair, shave my entire beard, put on a fucking suit. And I had to do it, because if I didn't, this was the thing that I fucking hated, was that if I didn't do that, my dad would be viscerally upset, like almost violently upset, just because I didn't want to do that. And to avoid any of that, and it's just to avoid any of that, I just gave in and I fucking did it. And because I didn't want to hear it. I just didn't want to hear any of it. And it was hard, dude. And I remember when I came back, I wanted to do things on my own terms. I wanted to do it, you know, like in baby steps. But that's the way. And I spoke to my parents about that and they were fine with it. But that's the thing with my dad, is that at its core, it can be very manipulative, where I'll tell him I want to do it in my own terms and I want to do it in baby steps. He's like, no, yeah, it's completely fine. But the minute he gets that opening of where he can have things his way, he'll completely take it and he'll take advantage of it. I remember they wanted me to go out on service with them one time, and I was like, okay, but I don't want to talk to anybody, because I'll go, but I don't want to talk to anybody because I'm not ready. And at the end, I didn't have to talk to anybody, but my dad told me to get out of the car and go with him to go speak to somebody. And I was like, I told you I'm not ready. And he's like, oh, but you're not gonna have to speak. And it's like, that's not the fucking point, dude. I just told you I'm not ready to come out here and do that. But like I'm saying, like that was the whole thing with him, was that, and it's I know that it could sound dramatic because it's something that's like so simple, of like I didn't have to talk to anybody. I just had to stand next to my dad. But it was the fact that like I had to go and do that when I said I wasn't ready. Because in their eyes, baby steps meant like doing something like that, like already jumping headfirst into it. Yeah, I may not have had to have talked, but I had to be there. And I remember my mom telling me that when she was like, your baby steps are too small. Like, you have to, like, if you do it the way that you want to do it, you're never going to get to where you're supposed to be. And I'm like, I'm never going to get to where you want me to be. Because that's the thing, you want me to do it on your terms, you want me to do it in your way, because fuck what I want to do. So it was hard during those times when I came back. And then I remember, I think it was like, this was last year, I believe, we were going to an assembly, and I had already grew out my beard, because when I had came back in 2019, that's when the pandemic happened. So we were doing the meetings through Zoom. And I had my beard because I didn't care. And then when it was becoming in person, my dad was like, you're gonna have to shave. And I was like, no, I'm fucking not. So I started to wear a mask to hide it. And then it was the first assembly that we were going to, where they had already lifted up like all the restrictions and everything. Like, you didn't have to wear a mask, everything was already like quote unquote fine. My dad was insufferable during that time. They had left before me and my brother, because we had to work, so we were gonna leave that night. And my parents always leave the day before, and they had left, and my dad was non-stop fucking texting me of like, make sure you shave tomorrow. There's a family friend that we grew up with here that moved to Utah. She became a barber, and he was like, oh, she's a barber, she can, you know, shave you and do all of that. And it was the same fucking message over and over again, dude, of him just telling me like, make sure you shave, and make sure you shave, and make sure you shave, and make sure you shave. And I'm like, it annoyed the fuck out of me, because of one of the other assemblies, because that was the second assembly that they went to. The first one I didn't go to because they had gotten a hotel room, and my dad said it was too small, so I didn't have to go. And I kind of fought with that one, like I didn't want to. So then it kind of worked out that the hotel was small and that we didn't go, and I didn't have to go. But the second time, I was actually excited. You know, that's when me and Ashley, we went and we dressed up a little bit more goth, and we were very excited to go and just be with each other, and you know, because Ashley has always been like my support through it all, and I've been hers. And I was like, me and you are gonna go there, and we're just gonna be with each other, because we don't want to fucking talk to anybody. And we were gonna be each other's support and be each other's rock. And we sat next to each other all 3 days, and like, we did not move from our seats, not once. Like, it was me and her. I felt like if she wasn't there, I wouldn't have been able to survive, because I wouldn't have been able to survive, because that's my girl right there. That's my twin. That's my rock. And I was excited to go, and my dad was just like, nah. And like, they could tell I was excited, because I had bought all new clothes, and I wasn't fighting them on it. Like, I was excited to go, and my dad was just nonstop texting me, and I wanted to text him so bad and be like, can you just fucking stop? Like, I'm not even fighting you on going. Like, I'm excited to go, but yet you're too stupid to realize that. Cause like how I was talking about earlier, if I give them that inch, they want the whole fucking freeway. If I give them that opening to where it looks like I'm kind of going for it, they'll just like fucking grab me and be like, okay, you have to do it like full force. You have to do it right. So I stood my ground, and I did not fucking shave, because I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Because the last time when I had to do it, when I first moved back in, I felt like how I said, I felt so much of my own identity just being stripped away from me, and it made me second guess moving back in, because it was like, again, I'm giving you that inch, and you just want to take advantage of that shit. Like, everything has to go your way or it's the highway. Like, which I know sounds like such a cringe saying, but it's very true. Like, everything had to go my dad's way, and I stood my ground, and I did not fucking shave, and I didn't give a fuck, dude. And it was years that anybody has saw me, because I had moved out in 2019. There were some assemblies during that time. Nobody had seen me in like 3 or 4 years, so everybody was coming up to me, and I was being nice to everybody. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, it's good to see you, you know, it's been a minute, yada yada, blah blah, you know, the whole small conversation, banter shit. And not once did anybody bring up that I had a fucking beard. Everybody was just so happy to see me, and they were just telling me how good it was to see me there, and they were giving me all these words of encouragement. And it was my dad the entire time who had his fucking face, and who was just bitching and moaning about the fact that I had a beard. And I'm like, you are the only one who's bringing this shit up. Nobody here gives a fuck, dude. Like, and it was just, those 3 days were really bad. And then my dad was like kind of avoiding me, and he was just almost like talking down on me, and I was like, dude, come on. And like, it made no sense to me, because he was what they call like I can't think of the word, but he was like helping out in the assembly, and like said, help, like finding seats for everybody, and, you know, just helping out in the assembly. And it's like, this is the attitude that you're gonna have when you have the privilege of helping out in the assembly. You're gonna be that upset over the fact that I have a beard, and this is again, you're gonna have this type of attitude as you're helping. And like, it's just, but I stood ground. And then like a couple months later, they ended up saying that they approved that it was okay for people to wear beards now. And I was like, see, you made such a fucking scene for them to be like, yeah, it's fine to have a beard. But I stood my ground, because I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, dude. Like, it was really fucking bad. And then again, I had moved out again, because my dad was starting to act the same way. I would miss the meeting, and he would come back again so viscerally upset because I missed the meeting. And in the back of my head, I was just thinking, like, these things are becoming so routine for you, because the fact that you're coming from a supposed holy place and you're this fucking upset, like, come on, dude. So, and then, yeah, I got into the relationship. I had moved out. I moved back in about 7 months ago. And I had told my dad, I was like, I do want to move in. I was like, but I just don't want any problems. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this religion. And this was the first time in so many years where my dad was actually nice to me, and both of my parents were actually nice to me. Like, this is the first year where, like, they're not telling me fucked up things, and they're not making me feel bad, and they're not, because I feel like it took them this long to realize that, like, yeah, you were horrible towards me. Like, you caused me so much mental damage and so much trauma that it took you up until now that I'm almost 30 for you to realize, like, the true damage that you did to me, and the way that you just forced so much shit on me. Because my dad was always violently homophobic. And then the thing that I never respected with my mom is that in the religion, she has to be a submissive woman, which that's the one thing I don't respect, is that there is a lot of things when it comes to marriage that, in my opinion, is very deep rooted in misogyny, that being one of them. And I knew that my mom could clearly see that my dad, you know, se estaba pasando a veces, but because she had to be submissive, you know, she never really had a voice. Like, she couldn't really speak up. And yeah, it took, I feel like it took up until now for them to realize that like, I'm not gonna be who you want me to be. As much as you force it upon me, I'm not gonna be who you want me to be, and I will never be who you want me to be. And I know that that may hurt them because, you know, the thing with the religions are like the world's gonna come to an end, and then they're gonna, you know, restart everything, and everyone's gonna be holy and a part of the religion and whatnot, and whoever doesn't want to be a part of it is gonna be destroyed forever. And I understand that that may be a concept that's hard for them to wrap their head around, that I may not be with them because I don't want to be a part of it. And it does suck, you know, on my end too, that I may not see my family, and I may not see my parents. But at the same time, it's just like, it's something that we both have to be okay with. And it's something that in the end, we're both going to have to live with, you know, the consequences of my choosing, you know. So, yeah, that was my experience. That was my experience. Yeah, this is the first year where, like, my parents took accountability for certain things, and me and my mom had that conversation the one time I took her out for breakfast, and she kind of told me that like they did have to realize that, like, I wasn't gonna be who they wanted me to be. And I was like, yeah, dude, because you can't force me to do something I don't want to do, and you can't force me to be straight. You can't. And it just sucks, dude. It sucks that I had to go through so much mentally and so much verbally, and just have all this trauma on me because my parents found it so difficult to not only accept me but just to love me. Because not only did I come out gay, but I didn't want to be a part of the religion. And I feel like that's what will always hurt. And I try so hard to tell myself that I was okay with the fact that, you know, I was never really going to have my parents there, and that I was never really going to have my parents' acceptance or my parents' full love, because they made it such a mission and such a difficult task just to show me basic love and basic respect, because it came to those two things. And as much as I tried to tell myself that I was okay with it and that I moved on and that it didn't hurt me, I knew subconsciously and deep down that it fucking destroyed me. Because there's nothing worse than having your own parents just tell you the types of things that they would tell me, and just belittle you and make you feel like you were never good enough, and make you, and just have it be such a task just to show you love. And that's the reason why, like, I left, because I was like, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't force myself to be somebody who I didn't want to be. I couldn't force heteronormativity. I couldn't force myself to follow a religion that I wanted nothing to do with. And it was hard, dude. It was so fucking hard the first time I moved out, having to unlearn your faith and unlearn the religion and lose that connection with your family and with certain friends, and to lose people in your life left and right because you chose to do what makes you happy, and you chose to become, you just chose your happiness over anything else. That was the hardest thing I ever had to accept, was the fact that people who I thought were going to be by my side did the complete opposite and just spoke bad on my name, only because I couldn't do it anymore. Only because in my opinion, the best way possible, I became selfish and I chose myself. And it was hard. It was so fucking hard, dude. It took up until now for me to accept myself and to tell myself that there was never anything wrong with me. That me being gay had nothing to do with the fact that I couldn't be loved properly. That I was deserving of love. That I am deserving of love. That I am deserving of respect. And that it shouldn't have been that hard for my parents to love me. And that's why nowadays, like, I am who I am, to where I'm so strong in my convictions, I'm so strong in my beliefs, I don't care what anybody has to say about me. I'm gonna do what makes me happy. And it took me so long to accept myself. And it was so hard because every day I used to like wonder, like, why was I the one that had to be gay? Why was I the one that had to come out the way that I did? You know, it would have just been easier if I was like normal, you know? And it was hard, dude. It was so fucking hard. And I had so much hatred towards my parents and so much resentment. And I just, there were forms of discipline that I just never understood. Whew. Sorry, you guys. I just started crying. But it was hard, man. It was really fucking hard. And it took up until now for me to accept myself and to be okay with myself. And like, as cringy as it may sound, it was very much like, you know, gay is okay. Like, there's something wrong with it. And what helped me too was that like I had such a good support system with all my friends that they accept me for me and that they see me past me being gay. They don't diminish me as a person just because I'm gay. Like, they see me as Adam. They see me as their friend. And the way that they support me and the love that they show me, like, yeah, after a while, like, what my parents said was true. I chose to be around my friends because I got that love and acceptance and support that they couldn't even show me. So yeah, I wanted to be around the people who made me feel good. Of course, I wasn't gonna want to be around the people who were constantly tearing me down. Like, it was, I mean, it's common sense. And like I said, this is the first year that my parents are actually like nice to me, and like to where I can actually feel their love for the first time. I just hate that it had to take this long and that they had to destroy me the way that they did in order for them to realize that, like, yeah, you know, we may have fucked up with you. And it sucks, man. It fucking sucks. But and what sucks too is that, like, because I know people are gonna ask me that, like, if I ever thought about going back, and I have. Me and my barber, I'm not gonna say her name, but she used to be a JW as well, and me and her have talked about it before, where we have thought about going back because there is that fear, you know. There's subconsciously there is always going to be that fear of us being destroyed and not being able to see our family. But at the same time, it's like, in my opinion, I don't want that to be the main reason as to why I go back. I don't want to go back just because I simply want to be saved. I want to go back because I have that true love for Jehovah, because it's something that I wholeheartedly want to do. It's something that I wholeheartedly and genuinely believe in. I don't want to go just simply based on the fact that I just want to be saved, because I feel like that's so selfish. But I also know for a fact that if and when I ever do go back, and it sucks to say this, but I know for a fact that my parents would not be allowed to be a part of my spiritual journey or my spiritual growth or my spiritual progress, however you want to call it. I know for a fact that they wouldn't be allowed in my life in that aspect. So like, I wouldn't go to a meeting where they're at. I wouldn't want them to know what I'm doing when it comes to the religion, even when I do decide to go back, because it's just that fear of, if I let them know and they know what I'm doing, that they're gonna find a way to like control it and to remind me. I think it's just all trauma based, of like, I just don't want to be told that I'm not good enough and that I need to do more, because I know for a fact that like the minute that I get told that, I'm gonna fucking leave. You would not see me there again, because like I don't want to put up with that. Because I remember when my brother was coming back from when he was trying to come back, one time he was late to the meeting, and my mom was just giving him so much shit for being late, and then he got up and left. And I told my mom, I was like, dude, he's like, se está esforzando, like he's actually trying. And my mom was like, no, because if he was really, really trying, he knows what time the meeting starts and he would have been here on time. And I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, that's what you're gonna pay attention to? And that's what I noticed too with my parents, that when it came to us, they really had no heart when it came to shit like that. But when it came to everybody else in the meeting, they had so much more sympathy for them. Like if it was anybody else in the meeting that showed up late, they would have straight up been like, no, like it's fine, like Jehovah sees your effort, and like it's just like the important thing is that you're here and that you actually tried, and like it's so good to see you here. But the minute that it came to us, it was the complete opposite. Like we knew better, we grew up better, we were taught better, and it's just it was the complete opposite. We never had that sympathy. My parents knew how to show it to everybody else but us. So that's why, like, I know for a fact that if and when I do go back, they will not be allowed to be a part of that journey with me. You know, and then I would probably like move out of state, because I have thought about like moving out and like moving out of states and just like completely starting over. So if and when that does happen, and if and when I do decide to go back to the religion, I would want to do it where my parents wouldn't know what I'm doing. And it sucks to say that, but I can't let them in my life in that aspect, because, you know, like I said, it's very trauma based. But yeah, you guys, that was my whole JW experience. Probably not like my whole, there is a lot that I didn't talk about, because there's a lot that it's too much to talk about, and I would have just sounded like a broken record, like how I already did, because it was a lot of the same like conversations and subjects and all of that, and just my parents constantly telling me that I could do more, that I could give more, and even when I gave more, it wasn't enough. But as you can see with me crying, like it's something that I haven't really healed from, because it makes me very emotional, because it was those times in my life where I was, like how I said, I was extremely depressed and suicidal and confused and lost and questioning my identity and questioning my sexuality, and just having all these things being thrown at me constantly just did not make it any better. But yeah, ever since that, I left the religion and I accepted myself and became who I wanted to. I converted into Satanism, which will be a separate episode, because I know some people like have been wanting me to make an episode about that, like the true meaning behind Satanism and what made me want to go to it. Also, what made me want to like become a witch and just become more spiritual and not so much like religious. Which that will be the next episode. I know the episode I had before this, like the Lana Del Rey one, was pretty dark, but I promise they're not all gonna be dark. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this and to hear me and to keep up with me and my inconsistency. Also, sorry for crying, but it's a very emotional and touchy subject for me, because it's very hard for me to talk about. But I know one day I'll heal from it. There's so many cars going by, dude. But yeah, you guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hear this and for keeping up with me and everything. Don't forget to follow me on my social medias. They are linked down below. And I will catch all of you in the next episode. Deuces.